In the last lecture, we saw that we could capture things outside the context of the Lambda function. Now we want to see that we can capture everything living outside the context of the Lambda function. The syntax to do that is ridiculously simple. If you want to capture everything by value, you just put an equal sign in your Lambda function capture list. And if you do something like this, now you're going to have access to everything outside the scope of the Lambda function. For example, we can access the C variable here from the Lambda function, but if we have any more variables declared outside the scope of the Lambda function, we will have access to them inside our Lambda function here. Again, this is enabled by the syntax that we use here by putting an equal sign inside our Lambda function. Notice that if you use the equal sign like we do here, we're going to be capturing by value. What we have inside the Lambda function is going to be a copy. If you don't want to capture all by value, you can capture all by reference. And again, the syntax is really simple. All you have to do is put an ampersand symbol inside your capture list. The moment you do this, you're going to have access to everything outside the context of your Lambda function, but that's going to be by reference. What you have inside the Lambda function are going to be true references to the outside variables, and you can do pretty nasty things with them because the changes you do inside the Lambda function are going to be visible outside the Lambda function, and any change you do from the outside is also going to be visible inside the Lambda function. So if you do this, make sure this is what you want, and you can use this to your advantage. Okay, now that you know this, we're going to head over to Visual Studio Code and play with this a little more. Okay, here we are in our working folder. The current project is Capture All Lists. We're going to grab our template files pretty quick, and we're going to put them in place. And we're going to open this little guy in Visual Studio Code. Let's do that. We are going to have our folder open. We can open our main CPP file, clean it up like we always do, and we're going to close the left pane here. The first thing we want to do is to capture everything by value. And we're going to put in the code to do that, which should be very easy to understand by now. And again, the syntax to capture everything by value is by putting an equal sign within your capture list. You have to put that within these angle brackets, and that's going to capture everything by value now. Now, if we run the program, we're going to see that C has been captured by value. If we loop around, we're going to see that the outer value is going to change, but the inner value is going to stay the same. This is the same behavior we have seen before by capturing by value. So let's build again. We're going to build with GCC. The build is good. We can clear and bring up a terminal so that we can clear properly. So let's do clear and run Rooster. Now we see that the outer value is changing, but the inner value is not changing. And again, this is classic capturing by value. If you want to capture all by reference, you're going to use the ampersand symbol here. And let's do that. We're going to comment this out, and we're going to take this out and use the code here. We can do that. We're going to go down and put in a code and say that we are capturing by reference. We should say capturing all by reference. And all we have to do to make that work by reference is to put our ampersand symbol within this angle brackets here. And this is going to capture everything by reference. If we run now, we're going to see that the changes we do from the outside are going to be visible from the inside here. Let's build with GCC and see that this is actually the case. The build is good, as you see here. We can clear and run Rooster. We're going to see that the outer value is 42. The outer value is changing and the inner value is changing, as you see in our output here. And this is really how you can capture by reference. Just to play with this, we're going to set up another variable, call it D, and we're going to say it contains a 5. And we can try to print that inside our inner value here, and it is going to work. You're going to see that it has been captured. We can say stdc out inner value. Let's say that it is the D variable we are trying to access here, and we're going to say D, and it is going to be visible inside our Lambda function here because it was captured by reference here. Let's build again. We're going to use GCC to do that. The bold is good, we can clear, and if we run Brewster, we should see D printed out multiple times. D, 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 and we are able to access that through the capture mechanism, and we are capturing everything in the context by reference here. This is really all we set out to do in this lecture. I hope you found it interesting. I hate to say it, but this happens to be the last lecture in this chapter on Lambda functions. We still have a lot to learn about Lambda functions, but unfortunately, we don't really have enough tools to understand that now. But for now, we're going to stop here and learn a little more things about C++. Then we're going to come back and see some crazy things you can really do with Lambda functions. For now, let's head over to the next lecture and try to recap what we saw in this chapter. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.